Hi everyone, I am Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today is such an exciting day. It's day 1 of Acrylic April, which is a 30-day painting challenge where every day we do a little painting together, each skill building on the next, creating an unbelievable art journey that will help you paint better in 30 days. Now, today is day 1, and we're going to be doing a dawn. I felt like this journey would be great to begin with dawn because it's the beginning. It's the start of something. And dawn is a wonderful way to introduce you to the concepts of light and water and how clouds all work together, but in very soft tones. Helping me do this today is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
He's going to be making sure that you guys get zoomed in on the action. I'm going to be explaining every step of the process. These lessons are broken down into step-by-steps, which are timestamps so you can find your place again easily. You're going to love today's project. I hope you'll join us for all 30. Get your paint, get your brushes. Let's get started. It's Acrylic April. Let's begin by looking at the materials we're going to be using in today's amazing project. Project 1, it's so exciting. So I've got an 8x8 canvas here, and I put some wishes and intentions to get us going in a great direction. Today's wishes and intentions is a wonderful start for all of us and a great finish so that we begin and are able to finish this project together. That's my wish for all of us. Is that your wish, John?
It is my wish.
I think his wishes do not have too many edits, but that's just me. On the paint today, we're going to be using Cad Red Medium, Quinacridone Magenta, Naples Yellow Light, sometimes also called Tight Knit Yellow. Read the blog. It'll make that yellow very easy and simple and fun for you in your shopping experience. Cad Yellow Medium, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Dioxazine Purple, Mars Black, and Titanium White. Now, let's take a deep breath. Let's breathe in our creativity and breathe out any anxiety or worry that we have about this project because you can do this. Shall we? Step 1. To begin this, it's nice to be able to block out the areas of the canvas that are in the sky and in the water. Just that. Especially with water, our first element that we've got to get down is the horizon line. The horizon line is the most important part. So if this is an 8-inch surface, let's say that our horizon is at the 5-inch mark. Let's put it right about there at the 5-inch mark. I'm going to go ahead and take a watercolor pencil to create that line. And that's 5 inches from the top. Okay, guys? And we're going to go across. This tool I'm using right here, this is called a T-square. And the thing about a T-square is it allows me to create a very level line, which is your number one thing to do as a new painter for creating aquatic, seascapes, oceanscapes, anything with a distant water horizon. You want that to be level because if it's dipping, it looks like the earth is pouring out. And that isn't going to really work for this oceanscape, is it, John?
No. That being level thing seems to be important.
It's a little bit of a big deal. Now, I love my wishes and my intentions, but I don't want them to bleed through on the painting. So I'm definitely going to take a little water, and you can see how my watercolor pencil vanishes into the canvas. During this journey, you're going to see me using chalk and watercolor pencils to do the little bit of sketching that is required on paintings. And I use both of those because they're not too staining and they allow me to mark on the canvas without disrupting the overall design. So everything up here is sky and everything below is water.
Ooh.
Let's begin with a big wide brush. Now in the water, the first thing that we're going to want to get is directionality of brush stroke. I'm going to get my brush just a little bit wet. I'm going to come here and take some of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue together and my white. And we're going to begin to brush across the surface. This is our first layer, and it can be fairly rough in the beginning. It doesn't have to be perfect in the first layer. And we're going to just brush across here a little bit of this blue. I might get a little more of my white into it. And these brush strokes, as you will notice, are all horizontal. You can paint around the sides. I don't normally in my YouTube classes paint around the sides, but for Acrylic April, I tend to because I know a lot of you guys are hanging these in big collections together, and being able to do that is a super important thing.
Now those long, flat strokes are what help make it look like level water, right?
It does. And even at this beginning stage, that's really big for you guys to be able to have going. Now, you can see that I am wiping out my brush. Controlling the amount of water on your brush is a big deal. The sky is in 2 zones. And so the first zone of the sky is a bit of a peach. I'm going to take my Naples yellow light and a smidge of my Quin magenta together. All right, you see me working those together. And we're going to just go across here. This is just the beginning of this. It's almost a 1-to-1 mix. We come across, and you can see the sky is now meeting the ocean in a very level way. But as I brush out, notice that I'm changing the brush stroke direction. I'm fanning it out from the corner. This is going to help build up the implied stroke for the sky. And this is the first thing to be thinking about when you're doing those seascapes, is how those two things work together. Now we have a blue sky overhead that's coming down into our clouds. So I'm going to take a smidge of my phthalo blue and quite a lot of my titanium white. And I'm going to just brush this back down into the peach.
That's still wet into wet?
Yeah, we're still working wet into wet. When acrylic paint is wet, it blends fairly well. When it becomes dry, it doesn't blend as well. So now we have this very energetic movement, but a pretty hard line that I want to get rid of. And that's the last part of this. Take a soft brush. This is a mop brush with a synthetic filament in it. It's very soft. And I can blend these 2 zones together and create, even at this beginning stage, a super soft transition. I can wipe off the extra little blue-white pigment on here, anywhere I want to make this soft. And so I can start a soft sky with a pretty complicated transition from peach to blue with no trouble at all. So this is the first place that you want to get to. It's a little bit to take in, really break it down, give yourself time. And let's dry the surface before we go on to step 2. So for step 2, we're going to begin the wonderful sky and start learning our basic techniques for these types of sunsets. I'm going to use low tack tape. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tape this down where my water meets the sky so that as I paint, I keep that very clean horizon line. I'm going to burnish my low tack tape with my finger.
How hard are you pushing that down?
I like to burnish this pretty hard with my finger because I don't want the paint, if it's wet, to seep under the tape too much, because I do want to keep a crisp line. This particular brand is stick. Sometimes I use washi. Sometimes I use artist tape. You can also just be very careful with when you're freehanding. So there's a lot of ways to get here. Now I'm going to take a number 8 cat's tongue, but you could use another type of brush called a filbert. They're not too dissimilar. I like this one because it has a point to it. And of course it's from my line, but you can use another brush. That's completely okay. Let's begin to really develop the sunset. I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, and I definitely want to take off any extra water so that it's not soaking wet. And let's begin the orange area into the sunset. I am mixing a little of my Naples yellow over into where my cad red is, and there was already some magenta there, so we're just warming this up. I'm going to come across the bottom, and this is almost a coral, which I really rather like, a fun coral. And pull this up here. Right here towards the edge, I might get a little more of my cad red. You can see that we're blending this out. Isn't this nice?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to rinse out a bit as I go. And I might grab some of my cad yellow and add it over from the side into my Naples yellow mix.
Ooh, that's nice.
And blend these two together. I'm doing kind of a sweepy stroke.
Is that the technical term?
It's super technical. Sweepy strokes are the key to everything. But really what it is it's using the edge of the brush and a soft pressure to feather the two paints together while they're still wet. And this is going to start to create a bit of that drama.
Ooh.
We want some drama in the sky. I don't want any drama in my life, but I do like drama in my paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Very fun here. Now, as I'm coming through, it's true, I'm going to have some wonderful clouds and everything to transition, but I also want to make sure that I've got a nice transition just even here in general. So I'm going to take a mix of my cad yellow and my Naples yellow and my titanium white. And I'm going to begin to sort of imply very wiggled, irregular little forms that maybe will be peeking out of this cloud area when I put the other more dramatic clouds in. Remember when you're painting to always keep your canvas at a comfortable position to your body so you're not straining your neck or back. If you're sitting when you're painting, that's importantly, it's especially important, isn't it, John?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that the strokes really add a lot to the sort of movement gesture.
It does. And it's fun to use these little sort of curved, they're almost like little commas. And it creates a nice little space where perhaps our sky could transition well. If I need to, I can get a little of my phthalo blue on my brush. I have it rinsed out and I've got a lot of white in here. And I can work some of this back where these two transition to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Now, where I want a better blending, I can rinse my brush out. It's damp. And before the paint is dry, I can very lightly come here and create a bit of a blending or space where these two areas are. Now, that's a lot to take in. So you're practicing directionality, you're practicing blending wet into wet, and you're working on curving your strokes. Remember, if you're ever having any difficulty with a technique, you can always work on a scratch sheet of paper. So get to here, and then we're going to move on to step 3. In step 3, we're going to give our sky a little bit of its dawn personality. Dawns have a lot of personality. Remember, your dawn and my dawn don't have to be twins. They can be sisters, right? It's just about the general process of the technique, and it's about getting the painting done. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Try to have fun with this first painting, though I know everybody's first painting is a bundle of nerves, you know, and so be forgiving and kind with yourself. I'm going to put out a little more white paint.
Just the first step.
Just the first step. And I'm going to grab a round brush. Now, this is a number 6 Cambridge. But what you really want to know about this is a round brush that is hog bristles. And it's going to give me a very soft and diffused effect when I'm painting clouds. So I'm going to get it wet. And then I'm going to dry it out with my paint rag so that it's damp but not soaked. And then I'm going to get white onto my brush with a little bit of the Naples yellow and cad yellow mix on it. What you see me doing here is loading the paint all into the brush. And let's make some distant little wispy clouds. These are elegant little shapes. They should be irregular. and feel as if they're far away into our sky.
Mm.
Maybe another one could be right here. You can see how the directionality of the blue is really helping enforce that.
It really does.
And you want to have those kind of cool moments. You can see me load when I go to work my paint and I don't feel like it's really coming on there. I will attempt to get a little more paint. And then perhaps some wispy shapes. My brush dances on its toe, which is this part of the brush, across the canvas and blends back into here. My pressure, how hard I'm pressing, I'm not pressing real hard, I'm pressing kind of light.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll notice this isn't a tidy brush, right? The bristles are kind of,
Yeah.
This is wonderful in a brush that we do clouds with. A little bit of fluff, a little bit of wild hairs. We like that. We look for that. I get a little bit of my different yellows in there. And where needed, kind of define or fluff out some of these edgy little clouds. There we go. Now, around here, I've got a lot of little edgy clouds, but they're actually more yellow because they're going to be around where the sun is. So on the toe of this messy, messy little brush, and I hope you find a good messy brush in your area. I think every artist needs a messy brush in their life. I have a few of these in brights and in rounds.
Seems if you just hold on to one for long enough.
It's really true. Never throw out a brush. If you really blow out a brush, with maybe bad brush washing habits or something, and it gets really fluffy, that's a blessing in disguise, perhaps even. Continue to add a little bit of this yellow here, wiggling it around. Notice I'm not pressing, and I'm allowing a lot of what's underneath to show through. In acrylic, we're blending with wet into wet, but sometimes we also blend by the act of layering, where we're trying to get a really fun, dramatic sky.
Yeah.
If I want to get some pink on my brush and load that on the toe, or out here, I can. I have a big brush that I really like to use. It's a very similar brush to this that's big for my bigger canvases. This is my little version of that.
Oh.
Now, if ever you want to soften anything out, you just get the brush wet and you'll see the bristles all sort of come back together. And I can come back with a damp brush and soften this. What am I doing? I'm making weird, wiggly, little shapes. We all need some wiggly, weird little shapes. I can get different little elements of my yellow and different things. Every sky is a different sky. So who's to say your sky is not an absolutely perfect sky, exactly as it is right now?
It really comes together so beautifully.
Doesn't it? Now, that's the first of the personality clouds. We have one more to do after this. So let's get it to here, right? Let this dry a little bit and come finish up of our sky in step 4. As we go forward, let's make another fun cloud. We're going to pick another dawn color that I really, really love, which are these soft kind of purples, but they're not like a sunset deep purple. They're like a yellow purple. They're one of my favorites. I'm going to take a smidge, and I mean, it's just barely any of your dots purple, over to your Naples yellow light, your tight knit yellow, and it will create an off purple for you. Isn't that an interesting color?
Oh.
And the first place we're going to put it is, let's put it here, low to our horizon line. To kind of imply a deep coming out of a beautiful dark night is what I think of.
That's really nice.
Yeah. It's really fun. And move these little things down with my finger. It's just a little bit. It's a hint, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can always get a little of my white in there too with a blue in it and just a little bit of a kiss. Kiss, 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 kiss. And then we're going to make a little kissy cloud up top. Oh. Now this one might have some magenta in it with the purple before we go visit our Naples yellow. Ooh, and I want to make some wiggles. It's all about creating random shapes. A lot of times we think of clouds as little cotton balls, which they very rarely are. In fact, it's so strange on the rare occasion that you will catch a moment in nature where it's doing the cotton ball, where you're like, that doesn't look right, but you can see that it's happening. Mm-hmm. And you're like, it's real. You can see it, but you also know that it shouldn't be.
I like the atmospheric perspective in this.
Well, I think it's important to realize that these are much more doable than you might think. And remember, this is about a totality. It's about each painting leading into the next. And, you know, about taking them all in. It's not where you start. Don't judge the journey by your first step, right? We've done this 3 years now. And in those 3 years, different paintings will be frustrating for the students. But it's never about that one painting. It is about where they end up by the end of their personal challenge.
Yeah.
And I promise if you don't give up on yourself and you just keep going, you will be better at your whole painting process, especially around a story of water at the end than you have begun. You know? So there we go. Isn't that just a wonderful, wonderful little area? I'm going to rinse out. Pretty dramatic right now. I'll go ahead and get a little of my cad yellow over to my cad red. And we're going to come here and just lightly dust a little bit of this, not too much. It's an orange yellow. It's bright, but it shouldn't take over everything. Mm-hmm. And it should be kind of randomized little pops. I might even get a little of my white and yellow together to come up top. See, I kind of turn this around. What I'm doing is creating a little bright zone. Notice how irregular this shape is. Mm-hmm. And I might open up different little moments in my world. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to dry off. And then we're going to do the last little part here. I'm going to get just white. And you're going to make a very small white dot. And believe it or not, that is your sun.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the fun thing about the sun is it doesn't need to be perfect. I could use my number 4 round here. That would be fine. You know, I'm still on this number 6 round hawk brush, and I've gotten some very good effects out of it. And I am ready now to start the water.
All right.
Woo! All right. See you back here for the water in the next step. I am so glad that you're still here with me. I hope you're having fun. I know John hopes you're having fun. Mm-hmm. We definitely hope you're having fun. But most now we get to do the best part. Are you ready for the best part?
Yes.
Peel the tape.
Peel the tape. Let's zoom in on it.
Let's really slow this down.
All right.
Right? And enjoy the tape peel. The tape peel is a wonderful time in a painting.
Oh, it all peeled.
And then it peels. And that lets us know where we need to keep our horizon. Now, I'm going to want to dry my canvas really well. And then I'm going to take the same tape and I'm going to put it down, but on top of the water line so that my water doesn't go into my sky. So let's dry our canvases, let the canvases cool, and put our tape down.
Okay.
You don't want your canvas to be warm to the touch. When acrylic paint is warm, it tends to be soft, and that can mess with the tape a little bit. So you do want it to be absolutely room temperature cool. When it is, and you're sure it is, you come along and very carefully along your good horizon line, place the tape down. You're going to burnish again. Right? You want it nice and level. You can always check it with your T-square and make sure that it's a good level along its line. And I always like to check, especially with the inexpensive T-squares, along both lines, just to make sure that we're good. I run my thumb along to burnish, 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 burnish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the water, it's so different than the sky because where we were doing fanciful upward strokes, we're going to be doing level strokes. I'm going to go ahead and I'll grab this nice bright brush. This is, the number is really kind of unimportant, but it's a number 20 ruby satin bright. What you're looking for is something that's small enough to work in the canvas, but not so small that you're going to be painting it forever. And we're going to begin the journey of water. Now, when you're painting water, and let's take a little bit of our ultramarine and our phthalo blue together. They make a nice halftone, and we're going to come across the horizon.
Now, the tape helps you keep that even horizontal line.
Yeah, that's what's going to make sure that my horizon in the distance feels like a nice, even horizontal line.
Is it important to remember to paint around the corners and stuff here too?
Yeah, if you want to paint around the corners of yours, I think I forgot up at my sky.
Did you?
Yeah.
You can touch it up by hand, though.
You can touch it up at any time really easily, so it's not going to be a problem at all. I'm going to take that down about an inch. I do want to make sure that this has a bit of a nice depth to it at the horizon line. And then interestingly enough, I might grab some of my Naples yellow and just under where I know my sun is, just kind of blend wet into wet there. Coming forward, I'm going to go ahead and grab my Naples yellow light, Tighten It yellow, and begin to lighten some of what's happening in the water. But I'm going to leave the deep blue at least here at the far edge because it's far away, and so it has a nice depth of color. You can see that I'm keeping the brush strokes very horizontal. This will go a titch green, but that's okay because we're going to be doing some cool things over that. As I come forward, I might get more into my phthalo blue and titanium white, making a very light color. And the reason that we're going to do the colors we're about to do now is because water is like a mirror. So when you have colors in the sky, it can be very nice to make sure that you have those colors in the water. And you can see now my phthalo blue and white is blending really well into that area where I had a little bit of the Naples yellow. But I do want to keep some of that blue in the far distance. When I get closer there, and if I'm allowing any of it to streak over, what do? I lighten my brush stroke. I let it lighten. Yeah, and relax a bit. Now I'm going to keep making sure that this is sort of light up here. It's really rather wonderful. And we're going to be very simple. Like, we're not going to put any extreme currents or anything like that in the front of our piece, right? We want to just make sure that we've got what feels like very calm, peaceful, and serene water. So get everything to here. Make sure your brushes are rinsed out. You don't want to leave acrylic paint on your brushes, right?
Yeah.
And let's come back to do the next step. Now we get to do some fun stuff here, John. We get to get into some fun colors because we had those fun colors up in the sky. We get to have those fun colors in the water. Some things that I want you to think about, and this will always be true when you have a strong light source in water, In any kind of water, it will do this. Where the light is will be more in the yellow, more in the reds, more in the oranges. There'll be a bright reflection that generally comes across it. And as long as you create that, even when you're doing very abstracted pieces, it will feel like water. So let's practice some of those skills and techniques. We can keep using our small bright brush for this because it's got a nice enough edge where we can kind of go back and forth. I think that we're going to want to start with a little of our peachy color. So if you'll remember, some of our peaches were the Naples yellow light, that tiny yellow, and a bit of our pink. And I can come different places and I'll make little kind of streaks. If you want some white into that because you're having any trouble getting coverage, you can do that. You'll notice that my pressure is super light. And what I'm going to try to be doing is keeping my strokes as level and a little bit irregular because the water could be rippling. You can see where I want a thicker stroke, I let the brush widen out, and where I want a thinner one, I go more on the toe. Now here, where I know the sun is going to be, I can come back and forth with a little more of that light value. I want to let the blue really show through. There we go. This is really pretty. Grab
Now,
some pink where I want some color.
Are you still keeping those strokes?
Yeah,
very
we
level?
want to keep those strokes level. So that's something to really pay attention to. Because if I start, I can go at an angle when I'm wanting to imply a wave. So I could start to come here and I could create a little shadow, kind of little wave, a bit of a ripple. But for the most part, when we're going, we want to make sure that things do tend to stay a little level. So let me show you what I mean about the wave. Like if I come here and I go across at a bit of an angle, I can kind of imply that there's a bit of a ripple to the water. That's always sort of exciting. If I do that, I'll want to go into my phthalo blue and white. Maybe a little bit darker. Okay. So that's where we can start to turn those lines. I haven't even really changed brushes. There we go. Brushing from the side, just to keep it fun.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really a joy. I'm going to take a little of my cad red into this mix and get more into that coral. And there we go, just mixing along with the coral, catching the top. Get some white in there. Oh, there it goes. You can play with the color. And then as I come here, back to the level.
Oh, yeah.
And I can be stronger in this area. Back into the level with more of my cad yellow. I'm still on my bright. And notice how right now that's already helping kind of like the sunrise that was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Really show there. And get more of my yellow and titanium white. Just layering it up. There we go. This is not about being perfect. It's about starting to think about the way that these elements construct to each other.
Yeah.
I want to blend this, soften this a bit. I can, so that it's just implied. You can see that's just done with pressure, breaking that up and rippling that light. Okay, so what do you have there? You have a few little ripples that are implied. You have a distant area that's gone very level, so it feels like water, and you have some really fine colors. Now, you know what we get to do? Best part. Heel tape.
Okay.
We got to see how that's going.
Ooh.
And also now we're going to need to create some drama coming down from this and across the water that reflects both the light source and the wind that might be blowing on the water.
This is going to be great.
Yeah. Come back and meet me for the next step. You're going to love how it all comes together. So at this stage, what you should have is a fun and dramatic sky, a nice horizontal line, most of the water coming forward horizontal, and then a little bit of a tip coming forward for an implication of a small current or wave. I'm going to get back into my really fun round brush here. This is that number 6 hog bristle round, and we're going to begin to paint the reflections and some of the detailing on the water that helps it really feel like water to our eye. So first, let's go into our Cad Red and our Quinacridone Magenta and our Naples Yellow Light. We're going to come back here and let's make a story of light. Ooh. And that's what we're telling here is a story of light coming across the water. My strokes are very short through here. I'm not going wide, and that's because I'm trying to talk about what I like to call in my classes a corridor of light. Right? In the light, there's often a corridor, and we've got 2 runs of it. There's this first kind of dark corridor, and then we're going to do this bright pop. It's going to really help it feel like, it's a bright morning coming up. There we go. Kind of paying attention a bit to the waves as they go. Mm-hmm. We want to also put some little bits of color, maybe here and there. If you remember, there's some really fun, like little purple color, and there's different wonderful little things. So you can play with your shadows, pretty easily. Like if I take my quinacridone and my docs, I can come in through here and imply a few little on the toe ripple shadows. See how they're irregular?
Yeah.
Deep shadows often help us see the lines as well in the water. And you can see I'll use these to speak to a few little ripples that could be happening here and there. You'll get very used to this idea of highlight in water, shadow in water, creating shape and form in water. I can come back with a peach anytime I want and like blend something out if I need to. And so feel empowered. I'm brushing my pressure is so light. It's not a serious pressure.
Serious pressure.
It's not serious pressure. And don't put serious pressure on yourself. Grab a little bit of my blue and white. Anywhere that you want to make sure that your water looks good, you can come in. My point here is to show you that you can come back with color too and help add or define anything that you need. If I want to come back even on the horizon line just a little bit with some, I want it to be blue. I don't want it to be as light as up front, but maybe I'll skip a little bit of this back here where the deep blue is. See how I'm dry brushing?
Oh, yeah.
And it's keeping that color, but it's giving that secondary sense of reflection because water is ever reflecting. There we go. That is a deeper blue and white. I rinse out. And this is going to be where it gets serious. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yellow, white together, quite bright. Notice I'm not taking it all the way to the back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to start forward a bit. And I'll pick some areas that are more yellow. They're not solid. It's not just a solid run.
I love those highlights.
I feel like they make a really big difference.
They really do.
Then you come back with white.
This is one of those areas where I think that as you learn different water finishing techniques, you can change up a painting a lot.
You really can. By the end of this, if you do all 30, you're going to understand the fundamentals of water in such a way that you could take a very boring seascape day and turn it into a big dramatic seascape day because you'll understand how water behaves. And that's the big thing is you want to understand how the water will tend to behave and what the water will do. I'm going to take a little of my yellow, no white, just some of my cad red. I want that orange. And just bring a little bit of that orange back through. It's small little changes, right? It's small adjustments. Whenever I change color on my brush, I rinse out and I dry off with my towel. I'm just tapping up and down. I'm still paying attention to my horizontal space. I'm just trying to create a bit of drama. And I want it also to have a bit of a sparkling effect. So that's what the tapping up and down is.
Sparkles.
Just a little bit of sparkle on the water. There you go. There it is. A very, very chill and mellow seascape sunrise. Guess what you get to do right now?
Sign it.
Sign it. Whoa. Woo. Now, I'm going to be saying this the whole time, but remember, your signature is part of the composition. So if you were to pick like a crazy color that wasn't in the painting, or you were to do your signature very, very large, it is part of the painting and therefore affects everything you see. So I do like to sign with colors that are in my paintings and in a way that doesn't overwhelm. Now, some people don't sign their paintings, and that is okay too. And some people sign differently than I do, and that is okay because this is art. And some of this is just about you spending some time with yourself, breathing in the creative, breathing out the stress of the week, and giving yourself a minute to enjoy your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Nice little tidy signature. That's noticeable there, but isn't taking away from the whole. If you're wondering what this particular brush is, this is a monogram liner, number 1 size. But remember, the magic isn't in the brush. The magic is in you. Oh my goodness. We did it, John.
You did it.
All right. So pat yourself on the back. This is great. Don't spend a bunch of time in the weeds. It's about completion, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.